Happy Sunday, everybody. Thanks for joining me in the card closet for another episode. This is not the episode 400 I wanted to do. To be honest with you, I wanted to have kind of a happy something about the number 400. But earlier today, one of my favorite players of all time passed away. Tim Wakefield died at the age of 57. A couple days ago, Curt Schilling accidentally released in a podcast that Tim Wakefield had brain cancer really bad. And he took a little flack for that. I think it was just an accident. He didn't know. He didn't think to get the family's permission. It was kind of a secret. And he passed away today. And as fate would have it, these 3 cards just arrived in the mail this week. Obviously, before I knew anything was going on, I had made a big purchase on Trading Card Database from a gentleman who claims to have the world's largest refractor set or collection. So I picked up these Wakefields from 2002, 2003, Topps Chrome, and then this one from 2006, Bowman Chrome. And had a little stack of cards I was ready to show. I was going to wait until after episode 400 to show that. Here's the rest, but they'll just have to wait. I'm going to focus on Tim Wakefield. So Tim Wakefield's rookie cards were in 1992. He was in the Score Rookie and Traded set. He was in the Fleer Update set, and he was in the 92 Donruss, the rookies. And I do not have any of those cards. I only collect those particular sets of Red Sox players, and he was with the Pirates at that time. So my first Tim Wakefield card is his 1993 Topps, which shows him clean shaven, which he very rarely was with the Red Sox. And that's his first Topps card. Already throwing the knuckleball there, you can tell, because pinky out was his telltale sign for his knuckleball. He had quite a great year in 1992 as a rookie. His debut, his first game, wasn't until July 31st, so well into over half the season. And he got the win in his first start, and he struck out 10. Complete game win, 10 Ks. Awesome start. And this is for the 92 Pirates, who made the playoffs. And in the playoffs, they played the Braves. And in the National League Championship Series, he pitched 2 complete game wins against the Braves. And the Pirates, of course, took the lead in that series. Late in Game 7, Tim Wakefield was voted the NLCS MVP. And just minutes after that voting was complete, the Braves rallied in the bottom of the 9th and took the series and went to the World Series. That's kind of been the story of Tim Wakefield's career, as you're going to find as I tell you a little bit about his postseason. 5-7 was his career postseason record, and he had some tough times and he had some great times. So after that 1992 season, even though he pitched half the season, Wakefield was named, or he was 3rd in the Rookie of the Year ballot in 1992. So he had a great start. Take us now forward to the next season, 1993. Jim Leyland named him Pittsburgh's starting pitcher for opening day for the Pirates. And he got a win. He won the opening day game. But as the season went along, Wakefield started suffering more and more, and his stats started going south. He was demoted to AAA and then to AA. So in one season, he went from opening day starter to down to AA. 1994, he played AAA all season long. He went 5-15. So at this point, it's looking like he's going the wrong direction, like he doesn't have a career in the major leagues. So he was released after the 1994 season by the Pirates. And 6 days later, the Red Sox gave him a minor league contract. So think about that, 6 days. And in that time frame, they negotiated with Tim, and what really made him start or want to sign with the Red Sox was that Dan Duquette was the GM at that time, and he guaranteed Tim Wakefield that they would hire Phil Niekro, the Hall of Famer, 300-game winner, 3,000 strikeout guy, great knuckleball pitcher, just like Tim Wakefield. They would hire Phil Niekro on contract to be a consultant for Tim Wakefield. And Phil Niekro did wonders for Tim and his knuckleball. He kind of is the one who told him that you just throw it over the middle. You just got to trust that the movement of the ball will do its magic. And also instilled in Tim the need for strong mental fortitude as a knuckleball pitcher, because everybody knows what's coming and you're going to throw it anyway. So 1995, he had that AAA contract. Here's a card you don't see very often. I don't think I've ever seen it on YouTube. Tim Wakefield's first Red Sox card. His Pawtucket Paw Sox card. Because that's where he started. He's gripping it with his knuckle grip there, with the ring finger down alongside the ball and the pinky out. So that's his first Red Sox card, because he signed a AAA contract, and that's where he was going to be that year. But things turned out good for him after just 4 starts. With Pawtucket, he got a great start. They moved him up to the big leagues, to the Red Sox. And he won 14 of his first 15 decisions in 1995. So he was 14-1 at one point. Then he cooled off a little bit, ended up finishing 16-8. He was the pitcher for the American League Divisional Series in 1995 against Cleveland in Game 3, and he lost that game. And he ended up being 3rd in the Cy Young balloting. So think about that. From AAA player to 3rd in the Cy Young, all within the course of a season. He didn't get into a lot of sets in 1995, but for some reason he got into the finest set. So I've got his 1995 finest refractor to show that off. So there's Tim Wakefield. 1996, he had a lot of seasons where he'd win 12, 13, 14 games. He got 17 a few times. Those are just kind of typical seasons for him. Again, he took the loss in, I'm jumping ahead to 1998. His next postseason appearance was in 1998 in the ALDS against Cleveland again, and he took the loss in Game 2. But let me show you some of the cards. Starting in 96, then, he started getting into some sets because of that great year he had in 1995. You have a good year, you get into more sets. And you're going to see that a lot of his cards look the same, because he is in that pitching motion, and they like to capture the grip, the knuckleball grip. Here's a Fleer card of him not doing the motion, but like I said, a lot of these cards start to look the same for Tim Wakefield. Here's one I like because he's fielding and looks like there's a pop-up of some kind there. Ooh, and there's his upper deck card from 96. Then in 1997, here we go again. This time he's on the Collector's Choice. He's in the Donruss with a familiar pose. Here's one of my favorite Tim Wakefield cards. It's one of the cheapest made cards, 1997 Fleer, very flimsy and not great photo quality. It's kind of got a grainy look, but I love it that he's fielding a pop fly. You can tell by the shade of his glove, the shadow of his glove on his face, that it's in the sun. And he's attempting to shade the sun as much as he can here as he looks for that pop fly. So I just love that look, that intense look, trying to get that fly ball. These are some 1997 cards here from Score, Pacific. Tim Wakefield's one of those guys that he's here and there. He's in some sets, but he's missing from a lot of key sets too. He was good enough to get into a lot of the base sets if it was a set that had a really long checklist, but if it was a shorter checklist set, you didn't necessarily see him. Here's his next year's Score in Upper Deck. Here is his 98 Topps. I love how that ball is coming right in on you, that knuckleball. And the camera, even with 1998 technology, caught the seams. And I'm guessing that is because that ball is not rotating very much. Knuckleballs, if they're thrown right, don't rotate hardly at all. And that's what makes them jump around. So let's jump to the cap in the background here. Tim Wakefield is one of the rare individuals that I have a little bit of a personal connection with. And it's not much. It's not much. But it's more than most players. And so in 2008, Red Sox were the defending champions. They were on a road trip and they were coming through Minneapolis, which is only like 3.5, 4 hour drive for me. So family was on vacation in that area anyway, so we went to a Red Sox game. And this is the hat that my wife was wearing to that game. And if you want to see a little tidbit of this day, look at my video number 192. Number 192. There are some shots of players warming up. And there's also a shot of Tim Wakefield signing autographs. So the pitchers are all out warming up on the field. And there's all these people wearing their Twins hats and Twins shirts standing along the foul railing beyond the dugout and on first base side. And my two kids had their Red Sox hats on. Only two Red Sox hats that I could see on that side of the field. And as he's warming up out there on the field, I'll give you something to look at while we're telling this story. My kids yell, "Mr. Wakefield, Mr. Wakefield." And they wanted to get his autograph. And they kept yelling it 2-3 times. And he was easily close enough to hear it, maybe 50 feet away. And he turns to them and he puts his finger up like 1 minute, kind of, puts his index finger up, kind of giving the sign, just give me 1 minute and I'll be there. And sure enough, after he had warmed up, finished his warm-ups, he took a direct line right over to my kids wearing the Red Sox hats, and they're little kids at this point, and he signs autographs for them. And one of them I think was on a baseball card, which I'm having trouble finding, but the other one was on this cap. That's Tim Wakefield's autograph from summer of 2008 right there. That's Kevin Youkilis. But that's Tim Wakefield. And of course, when he came over and signed their stuff, all the other kids and people that were kind of hanging around for autographs just converged on him and started thrusting their hands out with things to sign. And that's what I show in the video is him signing some autographs. But he came over to my kids first, and they still talk about that. So Tim Wakefield, when somebody does something nice for your kids, leaves a warm spot in your heart. So 1999 came along, and Tim Wakefield made 2 appearances in the ALDS. Red Sox lost that again, of course. See what I mean by about a lot of his cards looking the same? I like this one as he's just kind of standing tall, 6'2", looking in, hasn't delivered yet. Things started getting interesting for him, though, in 2003. So from 99 to 2002, he jumped back and forth between starter and reliever. Did a lot of back and forth. Pitched 50-some games a year, and about 20 of them were starts. That back and forth, the sabermetricians believe that back and forth for those 4 years cost him 20 wins. So if you take a look at his career total of 200, could have had easily 220 wins. But in 2003, he was on the starting rotation again. 2003 through the rest of his career, he was a starting pitcher. And he got the nod to start Game 1 of the ALDS in 2003. And they lost. But they did come back and win the series. He was the winning pitcher. So 2003 ALCS, it's a bad experience for Tim Wakefield. We all know what happened, right, in Game 7. But people forget that in Games 1 and 4, he was the winning pitcher. He beat the Yankees in both Games 1 and 4 in that series. Game 7, he comes in relief in the 11th inning. And let's just say Tim Wakefield helped Aaron Boone get his new middle name. We'll just leave it at that. Most of his cards show him with a Fu Manchu. That's the goatee is what he typically had, but there are a couple cards from this year, and this is 2006. There's a couple cards that show him with the full beard, which kind of gives him a totally different look, doesn't it? After he gave up that home run after the game, he said, "I just became Bill Buckner." 2004 came along, ALCS. Red Sox were getting bombed out again by the Yankees in Game 3, and Wakefield was scheduled to pitch Game 4, and he volunteered to coach Francona. He said, this was like middle of the game, they're getting bombed out, they're already down 2-0, so to save the relievers a little bit, he volunteered to come in the middle of that game, and he ended up pitching several innings, 3 or 4. And by doing that, he forewent his start in Game 4, took one for the team. In Game 5 of that same ALCS against the Yankees, he pitched innings 12 through 14, if you remember that game that went till like 1 in the morning. And he got the win when, in the 14th inning, David Ortiz hit the bloop single that scored the game-winning run. And after Game 7, I'm jumping to Game 7 now. After Game 7, Red Sox were celebrating their victory over the Yankees. They're going to the World Series. Clubhouse phone rings. It's a call for Tim Wakefield. Clubhouse manager goes to get Tim Wakefield, and on the other end of the phone is Joe Torre calling from the Yankees clubhouse and congratulated him. And he said, "You're one of the guys on that over there that I truly, truly respect." And that was a class act move. In the World Series in 2004, Wakefield got one start. He started Game 1. Game 1 starter. Red Sox won the game, but he got the no decision. 2005, Red Sox were back in the ALDS, and he was the Game 3 loser to the White Sox that year. Interesting thing happened in 2006. So for several years, I'm going to put some shiny cards of Tim here in the view. For several years, his personal catcher had been Doug Mirabelli. And in the offseason between 2005 and 2006, Mirabelli went to the Padres. So Wakefield didn't have him anymore. And the catchers that they used for Wakefield in the meantime had trouble with catching his ball. And when the catcher's not catching your pitch and you're a knuckleball pitcher, that plays mental tricks on you. And so the Red Sox, he started 1-4, and the Red Sox reacquired Mirabelli, flew him to Boston for a game against the Yankees. Mirabelli, they had police escorts waiting at Logan Airport. Mirabelli jumps in, gets a police escort directly to Fenway Park, puts on his uniform in the car, and runs in minutes before the first pitch, does a few warm-ups with Wakefield, and the two are reunited for the rest of the year. So I thought that was kind of a crazy story. 2007, again, another Red Sox World Series year, and in the ALCS, he started Game 4 against Cleveland, and he lost that game. He did not pitch well, even though he had won 16 games during the regular season, 16 or 17, was second on the team in wins to Josh Beckett. And even despite that, he voluntarily took himself off the World Series roster for 2007. He told the manager, Francona, that he just wasn't pitching well enough, and he thought he would hurt the team. So in those celebratory photos and videos that you see of the Red Sox winning the World Series, Tim Wakefield's in those videos. He's out there like everybody else celebrating, but he hadn't been on the World Series roster. Again, he took one for the team. Again, in 2008, he pitched in the ALCS against Tampa Bay, and he lost Game 4. In 2009, at the age of 42, Wakefield was an all-star for the first and only time. And here's a card from 2009 Topps update that shows him during the introductions to the All-Star game that year. Papelbon on the right, Youkilis on the left, and Wakefield in the middle. As a 42-year-old making the All-Star game for his first appearance, that's the second oldest that any player has ever been in that situation. The oldest being Satchel Paige. And even though he was in that game and was there for introductions, Tim did not see action in the game. 2010, he won the Roberto Clemente Award for his off-season philanthropic efforts. Tim Wakefield's been involved in a lot of philanthropic endeavors. A big one being at the Children's Hospital there in Boston, and also other things like that. Then final season comes along. Here's Tim Wakefield's last Topps card. Last season comes along. He gets to 199 wins, and it takes him 8 tries to get to win number 200. 8 tries. I remember that. I felt bad for him, just time and time again, getting the no decision or getting the loss. And he got 200, and then that was it for him that year. He's one of only 6 knuckleballers to win 200 career games. He finished that year 6 wins short of the franchise record held by Cy Young and Roger Clemens. They're tied. And he had been averaging 10, 11, 12 wins a year. So obviously he was 44 years old, but he could have come back and probably broken that record pretty easily. Here is 2012 Topps update Topps showing him as the active leader in the American League for wins. Career active leader. And with 200. But the new general manager for the Red Sox, Ben Cherington, informed him that he probably was not going to make the team, but he did offer Wakefield a minor league contract, 6 wins short of the franchise record. Tim said, I can't see myself playing for any other team, and he didn't want to do the minor league thing, so he retired. He was the oldest active player at age 44 when he retired, and he said, 7 wins isn't going to make me a different person or a better man. How true is that? When he retired, he was the all-time leader in pitched innings for the Red Sox and pitching starts. And then he went into the booth and was an analyst for NESN, N-E-S-N, and in total spent 29 years in the Red Sox organization. One interesting fact I found, of all the 200 game winners in Major League history, Wakefield has the highest career earned run average of 4.41. So tells you a little bit about the guy. You know, you live and die by the knuckleball when you're a knuckleballer. So again, great guy. And I want to end it with a quote from Red Sox chairman Tom Warner. He said this earlier today. "It's one thing to be an outstanding athlete. It's another to be an extraordinary human being. Tim was both. He was a role model on and off the field, giving endlessly to the Red Sox Foundation and being a force for good for everyone he encountered. The world is a better place because he was in it."